Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, staying safe. With Nicole, that has been running through Florida all morning, all afternoon, and it continues this evening to hit the panhandle of Florida pretty good, and even affecting areas of South Georgia with some tropical storm force conditions. But there is going to be a tornado threat that's actually ongoing right now, but will continue overnight into tomorrow. But this isn't your tornado threat that's going to simmer down just because it gets into the overnight hours. It's going to continue throughout the overnight hours, and I'm really eyeing South Carolina tonight, portions of Georgia, even getting into North Carolina once we get into daybreak tomorrow morning, and then as we get into tomorrow afternoon, there could potentially be a wide open sector of moist and warm air that could develop across northeast North Carolina and in areas of Virginia that could certainly have a decent tornado threat. But we're going to talk about that. There's so much to discuss in this video. And the reason is because we have an ongoing topic, which is Nicole, and then we got an emerging pretty big topic, which is the cold air and the potential for some systems along that cold air. So that's why these videos have been so long this week. This one's going to be pretty long. So I'm going to put timestamps on it. If you're really watching and just tune in just for the cold air, then certainly I'm going to have a timestamp set up for you to skip to that part of the video. But it's very important to continue to talk about Nicole because there's going to be an ongoing tornado threat. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Hit me up on Twitter. Great way to follow along, get updates here in the Southeast with Nicole moving through, and then eventually the Northeast. And then if you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, please put it in the comments below. And guys, it's very important just to have a way to get alerts on your phone. If you have a weather radio, just have a way to get alerts. Be weather aware overnight. Set your alarm clock maybe for specific times. If you know how to look at a radar, certainly do that. If you live in areas of Southeast Georgia, the Carolinas, especially South Carolina, have a way to get alerts overnight. We got to deal with this overnight. Then once it's on over, we're done with it. And then tomorrow evening and afternoon, evening for Virginia and North Carolina. But let's get going here. So latest update. Let's see if there's another one that's going to came through. No. 4 p.m. update. It's a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm Nicole. Forecast to weaken pretty quickly. But let me tell you something, guys. Nicole has very great structure. I mean, this is Nicole as the sun has set on her, as she is kind of just grinded the coastline of the Big Bend of Florida. But I can tell you, if you told me this was a Category 1 hurricane still, I'd probably believe you. I would say, well, sure, it looks like one. It has a tropical structure to it. It still has a great spin on the satellite here, and we'll see what happens overnight. But these are these feeder bands right into here. You see these blow up in convection right here. This will move into South Carolina overnight, and Cape levels will rise along with moist levels, dew points, and a tornado threat is going to evolve overnight for South Carolina, guys. So, if we look at the radar right now for Tallahassee, the center of the storm is moving almost right over Tallahassee, Florida right now. But this is the actual center of the storm. You got some reports of some wind damage, small tree limbs that are down. This is its own thing, right? This is the center of the storm. We got probably gusty 30, 40 mile per hour wind gust potential with this, and will continue to be very windy across Georgia overnight. But really what I'm concerned is if we go up here, look at the Charleston, South Carolina radar, is these feeder bands. We got a tornado watch in these areas right here, but you see these feeder bands working inland. This is the dirty side of Nicole. I know that sounds funny. This is the dirty side of the Nicole working in these little banding features, the northeast, the eastern quadrant. And these will present a threat for some spin-ups overnight. Let's hope it doesn't materialize like it can, but I can tell you the atmosphere down here is certainly beginning to destabilize, and this will continue to work its way north too. So in this area, as these feeder bands move in, we got to watch out for some quick spin-ups in this region. So we go back and look at this. This is how this could unfold overnight. The latest HRRR model spins this in here. Here is the center of the storm's right here, Nicole, right? And it's weakening very quickly. It's forecast to do so. But let's back it up here. This is around 9 p.m. tonight, which is, around 2.5 hours from right now when I'm making this video. Shows nasty storm bands moving in, pivoting in, and they will maintain strength even though it's dark outside. It's into the overnight hours, and these will be rotating. There will be a chance of a tornado all the way up to Columbia, South Carolina, Augusta, maybe as far north as Charlotte. This will continue overnight, and we have to watch all these bands. And I can tell you, for South Carolina, for example, a lot of this threat's going to happen overnight into tomorrow morning. These bands will continue. You got to watch these sections of the coastal regions right here. We'll get a closer look at this here in a second. But Charleston, the Myrtle Beach, these bands can be rotating. And that's just the way it is with the tropical system. The northeast to eastern quadrants of these storms are the sides of the storms where we have those rotating storms. On the western side, that's not the case. But there is much spin with these systems right here. And then as we get into tomorrow morning, I think the threat will begin to drop as the last bit of the banding will move out of South Carolina, and then it will become a threat for North Carolina. Raleigh points east and northeast and north, and then we have to watch for these redeveloping storms right here. Wide open, probably sector of unstable air, and some of these storms will be spinning tomorrow. Look at these little mini supercells developing right into here. There's some pretty well-known storm chasers in Virginia that will likely be chasing these tomorrow, and I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we get footage of a tornado or two out there. But this is the risk tonight. There's a slight risk of severe storms overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. This is for day one. We're still technically in day one, meaning this is the risk from right now continuing all the way through tomorrow morning. Slight risk, a level 2 out of 5, and this is driven off a tornado threat, which you have a 5% chance of a tornado in 25 miles in any given location. And this stretches all the way up to Columbia, to Wilmington, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Savannah. This is going to be the threat overnight. And then we flip to tomorrow. A pretty large slight risk. And I really think the southern tier of this slight risk will really be for tomorrow morning, around mid-morning. And then this will really shift into North Carolina and Virginia. And this is driven off that tornado risk too, a 5% risk of a tornado in 25 miles in any given location in this huge area with some pretty decent high population. Richmond down to Virginia Beach, Wilmington, Raleigh, and the threat will continue in all these regions. It's going to be a nasty setup tomorrow for tornadoes. I'm not talking about maybe a tornado outbreak necessarily, but latest tornado watch has dissipated, but we probably have a new one that's popped up here. In fact, let's see if we do have a new warning. I'm trying to do this on the fly, guys, but I think this is the one that expired at 7 p.m. or is going to expire at 7 p.m. But there's going to be probably another tornado watch issued into this region. So if you're in South Carolina, even areas of Georgia, you certainly need to have a way to get alerts. If you're under a tornado watch, certainly going to be a threat of tornadoes. I saw somebody comment this morning, and they made a comment saying we're under a tornado warning until 9 p.m. And maybe they meant tornado watch, but anyways, this tornado threat is going to continue to the overnight hours. We'll start this a little bit closer. This is a more of a closer look as opposed to a broader look that I just showed you on Tropical Tidbits. But we'll start this. This is starting right now. Here come these bands feeding into the area. This is 03Z Friday, so this is literally around 10, 11 p.m. tonight. Some nasty bands moving into eastern Georgia, South Carolina. But these are the ones I worry about. They're funneling in off the ocean, and there are going to be some spins with these. Charleston, up to Orangeburg, Manning, Myrtle Beach, up to Florence, down here in Bamberg. All these areas need to watch out for a tornado overnight. This is right in the middle of the night, around midnight, 1 a.m. tonight. These bands continue to filter in. I think up here, and once you get into the upstate of South Carolina, Piedmont, North Carolina, I think the atmosphere certainly just isn't unstable enough for tornadic activity. But down here closer to the coast, where you're basically getting a pool of moist air into the coastal regions, it's going to be there. And this will continue. We're starting to get into 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. These bands are pretty intense in the far eastern sections of South Carolina. Myrtle Beach, watch out. And then we're starting to get close to when the sun's coming up. The last bit of the banding's moving out of South Carolina, beginning to move into North Carolina. And then this is when we watch Eastern North Carolina tomorrow, Eastern Virginia, all these bands. This is around mid to late morning, moving through. We're already watching these, but watch what develops right into here. Some individual cells develop, and all these cells have the potential to produce a quick spin up, guys. I can't reiterate that enough. Normally with tropical systems, they're very quick. But one thing we watch, and we're just going to look at surface-based CAPE here, is throughout the overnight hours, we're starting to get into 11, 12 o'clock tonight, the CAPE levels will begin to increase further north and creep a little bit further north as a sector of unstable air begins to develop. And the higher this number, the more CAPE levels, probably the higher the humidity, and just the more juice the atmosphere you have for these spin-ups. And then we're getting into when the sun's coming up, the atmosphere begins to stabilize a little bit more into Georgia and South Carolina. But look into the eastern half of North Carolina, Virginia, the CAPE levels really begin to spike, along with a lot of spin in the atmosphere, helicity spin, and just warming, dew points probably rising into the 70s. There is going to be an unstable atmosphere, and it's going to provide help for tornadic activity in these sections right here. We'll give you an update on that tomorrow morning for sure. So just please be safe overnight, especially if you're in South Carolina. I live in South Carolina. I might be out and about, but I got to be at work in the morning. But I'm going to try to hang tight and stay up as late as I can to keep my folks here locally updated. But I'm going to do the best I can because I definitely need some sleep also. But the Northeast, I mean, the rain's going to move through starting tomorrow morning. You'll start to see a lot of rain moving through Pennsylvania. And then this is just going to be a very quick moving rainstorm with gusty winds with it that's going to move through. And then immediately as this is lifting out, we could turn around, and by the time we're getting to Saturday evening, have snow flying around from Pittsburgh to West Virginia to Ohio. So you guys literally, and this has really trended into this. I mean, you go back a couple runs, this wasn't there. This is the latest GFS. So this has been a trend to a more amplified secondary low pressure that pops up behind the remnants of Nicole. So literally, tropical moisture runs through southeast and eastern Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. This moves out, and then maybe a period of snow turns around and moves in behind it Saturday evening. So pretty impressive, guys. We'll see if that unfolds. And then the lake effect snow bands really get kicking here on all the Great Lakes. We'll talk a little bit about snow here in a second. As far as wind speeds for the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, wind speeds will begin to pick up, and we'll stop it right here. This is the middle of the night tomorrow night into Saturday morning. Potential wind gusts 30 to 40 miles per hour for the Delmarva area. For New York City, Long Island, maybe 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts for Boston. And there could be a period waking up Saturday morning for southern New England of 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts in Rhode Island, southeast Mass, even Connecticut, and certainly the far eastern tip of Long Island. So please take these winds serious. They're going to be whipping out there, but it's just going to be kind of like a quick moving nor'easter, but it's going to be moving more inland. So let's talk about the cold now. We got that out of the way. These videos will get much shorter once we have one main topic to talk about. So the cold's coming, guys. It might come in multiple rounds, but it's literally on our heels, and it's already dropping into the lower 48. So the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, this runs through the 16th through the 20th. It's going to get cold before that. Well below average temperatures expected. I mean, it doesn't get much colder than this as far as this time of the year, but well below average the temperatures expected for 95% of the country, below average temperatures just in general. And I mean, I really think, and portions of Dakotas already are below freezing, but I really think a lot of you folks in the Dakotas just went below freezing, and you guys might not get above freezing for the foreseeable future. In fact, some models don't even show y'all getting above freezing again through 15 days. So just an abrupt shift to winter for a lot of folks up here in the northern plains and the north central U.S. This is the 18th through Thanksgiving, which is the 24th. Below average temperatures continue to show up. Now, the confidence isn't as high, but in general, you get the idea that the temperature outlook showing still below average temperatures through a large chunk of the rest of November. We don't know what's going to happen the last week, but you get the idea. So this is heights and anomalies, and I know for a lot of folks, you're probably not going to understand what I'm trying to show you guys, especially before I actually explain it. So this is actually Nicole. Nicole's going to move through, kind of get absorbed into the trough. And here comes our first cold push. This blue right here, that is troughing. That is a cold front. And this moves through, cools everybody in the central and eastern U.S. down. And then what we watch here is another troughing, just staying consistent in the middle of the country. But what happens is a tall ridge begins to build into Alaska. What that happens, it's called a negative EPO. So in a nutshell, when you got a tall ridge that builds all the way up into Alaska, Alaska begins to roast. They get well above average temperatures. And a lot of times this opens a door that's wide open to what we call a cross-polar flow. And this allows from troughing from cold, not just from the north, but from the polar region. So sometime about 6 to 7 days out, a big cold front is going to drop into the country. The big question is where is the dump of cold air going to happen? Is it going to happen more so in the central part of the country, more so in the eastern part, or somewhere in the middle? But a big dump of cold air is going to move in, big ridge over Alaska, and then the entire lower 48 is going to be very chilly. And certain areas will be downright Arctic and very, very cold. And this pattern continues for several days. With that, with such a buckle in the jet stream, the southern jet also gets very active. This is what we call the southern jet right here. So as we're moving into this weekend, into next week, this is what we call a 250 millibar wind stream. So this is basically right around where the jet stream sits, thousands of feet up in the atmosphere. As this troughing sets up, an active southern jet sets up, which means you're going to have pieces of energy flying around with cold air just to the north. So what does that mean? Somewhere along the line, cold air is going to meet with the moisture, and you could get some pretty early season winter weather for certain areas, even as far south as Texas. Arkansas, I'm talking about you, maybe Tennessee, maybe Kentucky, maybe the Ohio Valley. I'm not talking about the southeast, no, but we need to continue to watch it. But this is good things to see, and hopefully it's a sign of what's to come this winter. But an active southern jet sets up. You got an active storm track with a lot of cold air around. So I'm about to show you, what I mean with the potential winter weather. But let's take a look at the EPS right here ensemble, and shows the idea. We're getting into Saturday. Enjoy Saturday if you live in Virginia to the southeast. Really use Saturday across basically the entire eastern U.S. I-95 corridor, especially as a day to clean up after Nicole. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be great weather. It's going to still be warm. And then Sunday, the cooler air comes through, and we actually get locked into almost like an early winter-like pattern. And then for the foreseeable future, we're getting into Monday, potential highs only in the 50s, 40s, 50s for the south, 40s for the Ohio Valley, 30s for the Ohio Valley. And for the foreseeable future, it gets quite chilly. We're getting all the way to next week. These are high temperatures. These aren't low temperatures. These are high temperatures. And then we wait until we get about 8-10 days out, and then some even more chilly air tries to drop down. But this is the ensemble. It's not going to be quite as aggressive as an operational run, but I feel like it's the more responsible thing to show you guys. But look how cold it is up here, guys. I really think winter, just not necessarily for the southeast, but maybe for areas of the Midwest, the north central U.S., and the northern plains, it is just going to be it's just a flip to winter. The cold front's moving through the middle of the country now, and there's an insane gradient as far south as Missouri. areas of northeast Missouri right now, northwest Missouri right now, are locked into the 30s and 40s, but the southeast part of the state still in the 60s and 70s. So it's a pretty massive cold front. So let's talk about winter weather, right? So Nicole's going to be moving out. And this is for, the middle of the night, Friday and a Saturday morning. As Nicole's moving out, and this is just the HRRR model, you're going to have a piece of energy flying through. I think central to northern Arkansas, especially northern Arkansas, southeast Missouri, could see some flakes flying around overnight, Friday night, and a Saturday morning. This, as in tomorrow. And then as we're getting, into the wee hours of the morning Saturday, I'm talking 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, some of this rain could switch to a burst of snow in far western areas of Tennessee, Kentucky, southern Illinois into southern Indiana. And guys, I wouldn't be surprised if this accumulates a little bit. I'm not going to, there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be very conservative about this, but watch out in the Quad States regions right into here, overnight Friday night into Saturday morning for a period of wet snow that moves through. And I'll make this go all the way to the run. Saturday morning, you got snow flying around in Lexington, Kentucky. A band of snow might make its way all the way into southern Ohio. And then look at these Great Lake snow machines kicking off here. That's going to bring a lot of heavy snow, just a steady accumulating snow for a lot of sections up here. All models show this. The GFS shows this quick hitting area of snow also. It shows it even more robust than the HRRR model and has it making it all the way to the Ohio Valley as we get into Saturday evening, flakes flying around for areas of the Ohio Valley and areas of the Northeast. And then, I think you're going to have some northwest flow snow flying around for the Smoky Mountains, Virginia, and certainly West Virginia. I think you could see flurries even outside the mountains. I do. This is an aggressive shot of cold air that moves through, and I think that some snow could fly around even as far south as the North Carolina, Tennessee mountains. Even looking at the European, it shows this shot of snow right here into areas of western Tennessee, western Kentucky, even into central Kentucky. Snow might briefly switch from rain to maybe a few snowflakes for Nashville Saturday afternoon. And then, rain-snow mix, maybe for Pittsburgh, areas of Pennsylvania, southeast Ohio, and certainly West Virginia. And then here comes that northwest snow kicking up for areas of North Carolina and West Virginia and all those other areas I just mentioned on the GFS. So it's coming, guys. It really is. And, as far as snowfall from this little event right here, we're going to do the entire event. This is just the national blend of all models, but shows a trace to a dusting to maybe a coating of snow for certain areas right into here in Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio Valley. And then you got a signal for snow showing up here along the high peaks of West Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee. So it's coming, guys. But you even go further past this event that's, you look at this event, Great Lakes snow machine kicking up, lake effect snow. But then you watch another system. Here comes that active southern jet. And this, guys, if this was December, I'd be very excited about this system, even for the southeast. But it's not. And the jet's kind of just going like this. It's not enough dig. And we're in mid-November. But here comes another system. This has consistently shown snow for Arkansas and maybe far southern Missouri sometime next week, in Monday and a Tuesday. Maybe a little quick burst of heavy snow. We'll talk more about that when we know it. This could potentially bring a brief period of snow for the North Carolina, Tennessee mountains. And then this moves through, kind of fizzles out, and then another system pops off here. And this could be a big system, about 6 to 7 days out, shows a pretty decent winter storm potential for western and northwest Texas. This moves through, gets very close to dropping some snow for Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then brings more snow to northern Arkansas, and definitely more snow for Missouri. And then this low pressure begins to cut instead of move south. We always want to move like this for the southeast, but it's just not that time of the year. It's good that we're seeing already shots of winter weather. It really is. I think November is always a good precursor month of trying to figure out what winter might look like. It's not a prediction, but what winter might look like. So low pressure on the GFS cuts really good, but brings a period of really heavy snow, heavy wet snow for Indiana, maybe Ohio. But anything that I'm showing you this far out, because we're 198 hours out, please don't take it as very serious. But in general, you see a pretty active pattern setting up with a lot of cold air around. You look at the European, same kind of deal. It shows that system right here, that secondary system pops off here, brings snow for the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, even some snow for Oklahoma City. And then here's the snow showing up for northwest Arkansas, areas of Missouri. And this brings a decent light to moderate snow event for these areas right here in the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region. Then you switch it to the eastern U.S., and this would bring a nice snow event for interior areas of the Northeast. And then here comes the bigger system, but it doesn't really show up. So the GFS and the European are a little bit different. And I really think it's because the European and the EPS ensemble, the ensemble for the European, has the cold air pushing towards the east a little bit more. Therefore, it pushes the jet further south. Therefore, you don't have a cutting low pressure like the GFS. So active pattern setting up, guys. I can't reiterate that enough. You look at the European ensemble right now, the signal for the first system, but if you were to go all the way out 240 hours out, I know this isn't some awesome signal, but in general, shows a signal for snow pretty far south. This is November. We're not talking about December, January, February. So it tells us that we're entering a wintry pattern for certain areas. So we need to continue to watch this. So almost a 30-minute video, almost broke a record there. But there's so much to talk about, guys. But that's all I got. God bless. Stay safe tonight with the tornado threat, and I'll have you an update in the morning.